In light of recent events, we just wanted to remind you of ways you can support the Black community. They include, but aren't limited to, signing a petition, volunteering for a relevant charity, donating to a relevant cause, or taking part in a peaceful protest.
Hey guys, and welcome to Heels Up at Home, a talk show where we discuss all things lifestyle, relationships, careers, current affairs, and so much more.
Right, guys, so I want to know, what are your thoughts on intuition versus self-sabotage when it comes to your dating life or just in general?
I'm confused. I don't know. I think for me, when it comes to dating, and this could be a self-awareness thing, but I think I always get confused between the voices in my head. I'm never sure whether my intuition is advising me and warning me about being in a particular situation or a particular relationship, or whether it's my past trauma overreacting and self-sabotaging the situation before it's even started. So I feel like for me, I think there's such a fine line between intuition and self-sabotage. And I don't know, I think it's an ongoing process, but I feel like it gets harder the more experiences you have in relationships and dating, because you're just not sure whether your intuition is protecting you or whether your mind's just overreacting, overthinking at 100 miles per hour. So I'm always a bit confused.
I also feel like... sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that, I think that there could definitely be a fine line depending on your past experience. But I think sometimes the difference between self-sabotage and intuition is that often intuition is evidence-based. Now, that doesn't mean the evidence is always concrete, but when I say evidence-based, I feel like sometimes that could be a change of behavior, a change of someone's routine, a change of habit, or a change of action. And there is something that you are seeing or you are hearing or you've been witness to that is triggering this gut feeling. But often I think with self-sabotage, it's not evidence-based whatsoever, or the evidence is actually the opposite of what you are assuming. So for example, someone might self-sabotage in the context of trying to push someone away. And they're trying to push that person away because that person is trying their very best to be close to them. And they're trying to push that person away because of their own attachment issues. Now, the evidence would suggest that the person is trying to connect, but the lack of evidence and their own past experiences are making them think, oh, actually, no, this isn't bad. This person's just using me. He doesn't really love me. He doesn't really care about me. Whereas the evidence is saying otherwise. So it is hard if you've been through tough experiences, but I think the evidence is very important. And sometimes it's about sitting with yourself and saying, okay, I'm having these thoughts. What is triggering them? Is it what I'm seeing? Is it what I'm hearing? Or is it because of my past experience? And I think writing things down can often be helpful. So writing down what triggers those thoughts, like what are your triggers? Is it when this person goes out? Is it when their phone goes off? Is it when they take a call in the other room? Because then that will help you rationalize your concerns, I think.
Yeah. That was good. That was so good. I feel like I needed to write that down.
What does one even say after that? I was just gonna say that for me, I don't know, sometimes I feel like, I can't talk for men, but the men in my life who have spoken to me about intuition, especially our female intuition, don't take it as seriously as they should, and they mock it, and I feel like that mocking is a bit of it's gaslighting in a way, and I don't think they mean to, but it comes across as it could be gaslighting, because I'm sure we can all remember times where our intuition has not been wrong. I'm also sure there's been and when I talk about intuition, for example, I'll talk about dating, for example. I'm not gonna lie, I've been the person who's gone through a guy I was dating's phone, and that was because my intuition told me to and said something's going on. I'm sorry, it did. But this is the thing. Can I say? No, don't get me wrong. Was it right? No. Was it right? No. But here's the thing. You know when you're just you tell yourself if you don't see anything, you'll feel stupid. Half the time, well, not half the time, most of the time, there's always something to see. And it's just my intuition was right. So why am I being gaslighted? And I feel like self-sabotage usually comes from behavior that you, with that person, that hasn't changed. So sometimes you expect them to mess up. And sometimes they don't. Does that make sense?
No,
yeah,
but
you want to say
so
something,
this is where it gets confusing, because it's you are what you attract, right? Whatever thoughts become, no, in the sense of thoughts become things. Thoughts become things, right? So my problem with the self-sabotage and intuition is, if you are self-sabotaging, you are automatically thinking that they are about to do something that you aren't gonna like. They're going to cheat, they're going to lie. You're already thinking that they're gonna do something that will break your trust. So if you're constantly thinking that that's gonna happen, and then it actually happens, was that your intuition warning you, like, girl, he's gonna do that? Or is that you just attracting that negativity? This is where I get confused.
I think sometimes it's a question of what are you allowing to lead you. So for example, say someone is actually self-sabotaging. They have a really loving, caring, considerate partner, and they are sure this partner does not care for them, and they convince this partner does not care. Now, how are they allowing their self-sabotage to lead them? Is it a question of them just querying things, or as a result of their thoughts and their negative perception, are they now mistreating their partner? Are they now being disloyal themselves? Are they pushing their partner away? So sometimes I think we can self-sabotage to the point that we write our own story because of the behaviors that we're exhibiting as a result of the belief system that we hold in our head. And have you ever, for example, like, this is maybe not the best example, but have you ever heard someone say, oh, you accuse me so much, I may as well do it anyway?
Yes.
Yeah. No,
I feel like
not to me, but I've heard it in the films.
Sometimes, you've seen it in like movies though. We've seen it in
movies.
movies.
Movies,
Sometimes when it comes to self-sabotage, we can push people, not necessarily to push them to do wrong or push them to do exactly what we were worried about, but because everyone is an adult, everyone has control over what they can and cannot do. But I think sometimes we can push people into breaking away from us because we are scared that they're breaking away from us, if that makes sense. And it's not necessarily, oh, my intuition was right, but we actually drove them to that point based on our own behaviors. And maybe if we took the relationship for what it was and what the evidence showed us, the narrative and the story would have been completely different. So I think sometimes it's a question of like, did I take an accountability, basically? Did I do anything to lead me here? And
But
that's not saying that it's your fault.
But they did it, though.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't really have control over what they're gonna do or what they're not gonna do. Like, you can intuition all you want, but if they're gonna be a prick or if they're gonna get pushed away or whatever, there's nothing that you can do. Yeah, it's still their choice. Like, I feel like there's no, even if you don't, let's pretend self-sabotaging doesn't even exist, like, they're still gonna do what they want to do. And it's annoying because you have, go on.
No, so sorry, continue.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, but that's why I said mention the adult thing, because I feel like there's a difference between someone, for example, cheating, because if someone has the capacity to cheat, whether or not you push them to that point, they have the capacity to cheat.
Right.
But there's a big difference between someone doing something to actively hurt you or something that actively hurts you, and someone distancing themselves because you are being abusive, because you are being manipulative, because you are being hurtful towards them. Because I feel like that is a very human response. If I'm in a relationship with a man, he can think I'm going to cheat till kingdom come. I'm not going to cheat because that is not in my nature. However, as far as I'm aware, because you never know, people surprise themselves all the time. But as far as I'm concerned, that is not in my nature. So I will not actively go out of my way to hurt this person. However, if someone is putting me in a situation where I'm unhappy in the relationship, where I feel like my thoughts aren't considered, they are gaslighting me, they are manipulating me, or I feel like they're making themselves the victim and they're victimizing themselves all the time, then I may distance myself. I may do it in a mature way and tell them, actually, you know what, I'm not feeling this anymore. But that doesn't mean, oh, my intuition, I knew you weren't for this relationship. No, that means the way you navigated the relationship brought us here. And it brought us here because you refused to acknowledge the relationship for what it was.
So they self-sabotage, basically.
And so I think that's the difference between self-sabotage. Now, if like...
So wait, break that down, sorry. So self-sabotage is behavioral, is that a word?
Yeah, behavioral, yeah.
English. Behavioral, hey, I can't say it. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. Behavioral. Behavioral. Yeah. It changes in you on the other person to push them away. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, I think self-sabotage is an outcome that is a result of predominantly your own actions. That's the difference.
So
between,
not
I
thoughts,
think, intuition
but actions.
But the thoughts will lead to the actions, though.
Yes.
Because that's where it starts.
Yeah, but equally, some people have the thoughts, and the thoughts don't always translate to action because they have the thoughts, they may nip it in the bud. They have the thoughts, they may speak to a therapist, they may speak to their loved ones or friends. So I think the difference is...
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I think the difference is intuition being a product of someone else's behavior and self-sabotage being a result of your own behavior.
Or what if, though, your thoughts come out as questions? So it's not behavioral changes to you, but maybe it's just questions that you might bring up for dialogue in the conversation. And what if that person doesn't give you reassurance about those questions?
And that can even be a self-sabotage in itself.
Is that self-sabotage as well? Or am I giving them the idea based on the dialogue to then go and do what I'm scared that they might do?
All these hypotheticals.
I don't think you're giving them the idea, but I think if you do have a thought, like if we're talking about something, it's an adult relationship. If you do have a thought about something, your intuition's telling me something, then I think there's nothing wrong with like asking, because that actually happened to me. Like with whenever I have stuff about like with my intuition, it's always backed with like a dream. I'm like a dreamer. So I would like see things in my dream, like at random. And I remember there was this guy that I was talking to, seeing or whatever. And I had a dream that he was driving, And when he was driving, he put his hand on the gear thing and another girl's hand was on it, like on top of his hand.
That's good.
And I woke up and I was shaking. I was like, what's this? What's going on here, right? And then a couple of days later, I sent him a message and I was like, sorry, this is so random, but like, are you like talking to someone? Like, are you talking to someone else? And he was all like,
Which?
He was like, he was like, yeah, I am, I'm kind of talking to someone, but it's nothing serious. That was a lie because now they're married. They're married, so it was serious.
I can see you're talking to someone, but it's not that serious.
But that was my intuition, though. So my intuition was right, like, and it led to a question that ultimately allowed us to have that conversation.
How do you ask the right questions? Because I feel like sometimes we ask the wrong questions, and it can just lead to you just messing up what was going on. Does that make sense? Like, have you ever felt like maybe I want to ask this question because communication is key. But if I ask this question, am I self-sabotaging? Is this going to ruin what we've got? Is this gonna put an idea and sow a seed in his head and something else will grow, which I don't want to grow. I just want to have a very open and transparent conversation. Yes. So it's just like, where do you draw the line with your own transparency?
I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Toni.
You know what? I don't want this to be like Toni relationship therapy session. So I'm like keeping quiet. But I think it's a question of
you're the only one in a healthy relationship, so you kind of have to.
My ass is single.
I think it's a question of. I think from experience, one thing I've learned and the mistakes I've made growing up have been. One, not considering timing. I think timing is quite a critical thing to consider. And I think sometimes as and I'm not going to say as women because men do this too, it's not gender specific, but I know for me specifically, there are times where I could be very impulsive. And if I do not ask something, it's playing on my mind and it's eating at me, it's giving me anxiety. And so what can happen is I ask a question the second it enters my head.
Same.
When actually that is not always necessarily the best way to go about things, because you have to consider the fact that in a relationship, it is not just you and your feelings, there's another person involved. So asking yourself, what is that person going through? What does this period in their life signify for them? Or what is this day like for them? Are they in the middle of a really important project? Can it wait till later? And I think asking yourself...
I've been self-sabotaging the whole time!
That's not self-sabotage.
I'm more like, no, if I feel a way, I want to address it right there and then, because it's
I
so
thought
bad.
we're communicating.
We are, exactly. But the thing is, I find like sometimes they can actually be quite selfish, because it's like what Tony just said. Do they have something going on? And I will be honest, I've been guilty of knowing that this person has a project that they need to carry out. But you know what? Fuck it. My feelings are more important than your projects. We need to discuss this now. So in a way, I felt like that has been part of self-sabotaging. But if something is doing you, like, I'm sorry, like...
I understand that, but I think it's also about, like, controlling your trying to, like, as we grow, like, control our emotions and managing them, because I think it's very different if you have something that is based on undeniable fact. Fuck your project, I saw you cheating and I want you to know that I know, right? But if you have something... No, but that's why I'm saying undeniable fact. You don't need them.
Mercedes is killing me. Mercedes is up in the camera like.
But I think it's different if you want to ask a question either based on assumption, intuition, or something that is not really based on actual definitive proof, but it's a feeling. And that's where it's important to consider their thoughts and emotions. Because likewise, if I put myself in the other shoes, if I'm at work and I have this massive project to finish, it's stressing me out, I don't need you calling me and saying, babe,
my intuition said this.
Have you ever cheated on me? And I'm working on this really, really difficult project that is making me super anxious. I'm stressing out. Can I add that to my plate?
Can I say something, Tony?
Timing. Yeah, go ahead.
But in a healthy relationship, I definitely understand that timing is so important. I 100% agree. I also think dialogue and communication is important. And based on my experiences, I feel like men don't like to talk. So even if I am bringing up something that might be said in a timely situation, for whatever reason, because I'm asking questions, because it might look like it's a series of questions, it comes across as if I'm nagging or where, but you're overthinking. Why do we need to address that? And so it's kind of like, I think with men, it's just like, where do we strike the balance between actually being able to have a conversation about how we feel versus protecting how they might feel and respond to the conversation, because they might be like, what are you talking about? You're nagging me. And then that pushes them away, even though you're just trying to get across how you feel.
That reminds me of like a thread I did on social media last year. I remember I asked women to share, times where they've expressed how they felt about something, and, they probably asked like maybe 2 or 3 questions, and the typical guy is only answering one bit that he feels comfortable with answering at that time. And it just kind of what, Mercedes, can you relate?
It's just real.
I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling hot.
Triggered.
Right now.
Yeah, I know. Listen, but that's another thing. I will say, don't write essays to guys who are not worth writing essays to.
Exactly.
I only write essays to guys who I believe will write essays back to me.
But why are we writing essays?
Why are we writing essays?
Why not? No. Because I need to say how I feel, and you need to. I might not know how to articulate it. Like, I might want to cuss you out on the phone, so I might need time to chill.
Then they'll say, oh, okay.
No. But I haven't really had that. I've had guys who have probably waited till they're ready. It might not be like an hour or 2, but they reply and they respond properly. But I've definitely.
So you're saying
been
the hour that you waited, you weren't trying to go mad and jump out the window because they were taking that long.
No.
See, I don't think essays are the problem. I think the problem is the kind of man. So I've been in relationships, like in every relationship
Tony, you've
I've
written
dated,
essays before,
I can comfortably. Oh, I'm a writer. I write, so I can comfortably write an essay, and with every man I've ever dated would read my essay and reply with an essay or call me.
Thank you.
I've never been in a situation where I felt like I have written too much, because I've dated men. Because from my experience in adulthood, I've dated men who have respected my feelings.
Agreed.
And they have respected my feelings enough to communicate with me on a level that doesn't seem dismissive. And on that basis, I will say this, like, I think it's a valid point. A lot of men do not like confrontation and talking, but there are men who are not dismissive, who will listen to you, even if you come at them with a question. And I think, I think with these particular men, the frustration only occurs when you are, your questions are based on continuous assumptions,
or things you've spoken about. Like, if we're talking about social media for the 15th millionth time, and I find you only post my work on there, and you're still disturbing me about it. Yeah, like I do get it.
We need to talk about privacy versus secrecy though, because they're two different things.
Yeah,
privacy versus secrecy. Oh, I beg, please.
What are you saying, Rita?
But also, guys, like, don't you want to be with someone that you don't have to question if you're being too much by asking questions about how you're feeling?
Like someone who can reassure you and be like, babe.
Like, because really, like, realistically, like, I think, like, what Toni said earlier is super key. Like, it's something my mom tells me as well. Like, knowing, like, timing is important. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, asking a question whilst he's at work in comparison to asking when he's back at home after he's had dinner, you're going to get two different responses, right? So on our side, like, wisdom is important, like, to know, like, when can I say this? When is the right time? And having that maturity to be like, all right, I'm going to hold off so that we can discuss this fully, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we all want to be with a man that if there is something bugging us, like if we are the type that as soon as we get a question we have to say it or whatever, we have these odd questions, to be with a man that will like reassure us and will have that patience, and it's a safe space where you're able to discuss it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like a rare thing. Like I do think it's the men that we sometimes deal with, because I don't think it's so rare that you can say to a guy, hey, this is really bothering me, and he can be like, yo, look, that doesn't need to bother you, like let's talk about this later, or do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like,
no, I agree, because even with me, I was dating a dismissive avoidant guy at one point, and obviously we did our attachment styles a few weeks back. I'm anxious, preoccupied. Those two people do not mix, because when I was asking when I would, you know, have a conversation or be like, okay, this question, that question, will you be able to help me answer it? Like, where do you think we can go? He was just not trying to give an answer. He doesn't, it's not in his nature to entertain that. He would rather avoid the questions and avoid the dialogue.
Oh, I hate that.
And after a while, it's just like, yes, it's almost like you're asking questions to just innocently get some sort of feedback, but then if their characteristic is to be dismissive avoidant, then it's almost like the more questions you ask, the more you're self-sabotaging the situation, because they're just going to consistently think like, this girl's doing too much, this girl's doing too much.
I feel like bare guys are dismissive
avoidant.
I feel like they are
probably.
I mean, I've dated some guys, like, but relationship wise, luckily that wasn't it. It was more like, okay, we'll talk about this properly and we'll flesh it out and get into how you really feel. But I feel like if you don't have someone who can reassure you, do they really care about you that much? Because if you care about me, you should care about my emotions, and my emotions 100%. Should be important to you. If my emotions aren't important to you, what are we doing together? Do you know what I mean?
I agree. So then, okay, so we've spoken about just trying to define what self-sabotage is. Then what is intuition? Because I'm not going to lie, from a being a Christian, it seems like sometimes intuition can be quite spiritual. Like even with you, Rita, you said that it was almost like you had the dream and then your intuition came in. I've also had dreams as well where I've like dreamt of the guy like constantly walking away from me, and like I'm trying to, I know it was deep. It was very deep.
How do you put a rope around him?
I should have, but then that would be witchcraft, so no, I'm not going to do that. But it's like, you know, sometimes you just have these dreams or like consistent red flags that compromise your value system, keep flagging up. So is intuition spiritual? Is it scientific? Like, you know, is it our imagination? Like, because what is it? Because women keep saying that we have it. Men keep saying that we don't. But we know what we feel. I
think it's a mix. I do think there's a spiritual aspect to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I feel like, maybe because I'm a Christian, but I do feel that there's a spiritual aspect to it. Because how am I randomly having a dream? And this isn't the first time. Like, it's happened to me loads of times where I would have a dream and it would just all make sense. So I do think there's like a spiritual aspect to it, like a warning. Like we just have this thing in us that, you know, God is warning us, don't go there, or ask this question, or do this or do that. So I do think but I don't know if there's a scientific thing to it. I don't know if it's
because
is
the gut.
It says whether you call it a gut feeling or inner voice or a sixth sense, intuition can play a real part in people's decision making. A new study suggests. They say for the first time researchers devised a technique to measure intuition. So it is kind of like scientific. It shows, because I was thinking to myself, like, is this like something that we've made up ourselves, or is there? So there is psychology towards it as well, which you can all research in your own time.
Sometimes we disregard how much of the physical world is actually linked to this so-called intuition. I think sometimes we jump to the assumption that I knew it was just a feeling. No, actually, your subconscious picked up slight changes in behavior. You picked up slight changes in tone.
Those red flags.
Slight changes in routine. Yeah, and so maybe in the moment we weren't acutely aware that there was a change or there was a shift. Yeah. But I think sometimes when the shift is very discreet, it's not something that we are very, very aware of in the moment, but subconsciously we pick it up. And that's when we say, oh, it's intuition, when actually, no, it's not some kind of, I mean, not always, I'm sure like there's more to it than that. But in some cases, it's not always, oh no, this spiritual wisdom. The signs were there, but you weren't actively picking them up in the moment. And because the signs were there and they were very discreet, it has changed the way you approach or navigate the relationship.
Right. It's almost like fight or flight response in the sense that your body probably is realizing that somewhere something has just happened that you might have experienced before that would have caused you distress is happening right now. So it's like your body is almost telling you, this is going to happen again. What are you going to do about it? But for whatever reason, we keep disregarding it.
And here's an example. Do you guys have any like stress triggers? So for example, for me, my eye twitches when I'm really fatigued or I'm really stressed. Or do you have any things that where your body tells you you're stressed, but you in your head, you're like, wait, I'm not stressed. I don't feel stressed. But your body is telling you are stressed. I feel like intuition is very similar, where it's like, wait, there's not a problem, but I feel like there's a problem. Sometimes your body is telling you there is an issue, even though your mind is telling you everything is fine.
How does I this is gonna sound so creepy, but I pick my eyebrow hairs.
That's not creepy.
But like I was doing it earlier today actually. I was just like, why am I doing this? But I guess it's like if I'm overthinking, it's almost like I need something to be like doing, or my body's just reacting. So yeah, now that you've said that, I think when I start picking my eyebrow hairs, or I just start picking like something, anything on my face or whatever it is, that's me getting stressed about something that I'm
I feel with me, my body, with me, I just feel tense. Like I feel like just this like a nervousness that doesn't go away. Do you know what I mean? You know, like when you've got a job interview and you're really nervous, but I'll be in that state of nervousness, but nothing's happened. So I'll be thinking, what's gonna happen? Or there was a time, this same guy, when I was going to meet him, my stomach just went into like knots. And I thought it was butterflies, but it was not.
This is what I'm saying, though.
As I've grown older, it's a warning.
No, Rita, we need to do praise and worship, because what is it, this guy? Who is this guy?
Who's the guy?
We need to remove
I have a question for you guys. I have a question for you guys. Have you ever been in a situation, have either of you ever been in a situation where you swore it was your intuition and you were very, very wrong?
No.
I don't know yet.
No, because what I do, I wait to collect. I wait to collect. I don't just go in, bam. Okay. I'm just like, I keep notes. You keep the notes, or not notes literally, but you just keep it in the back of your mind, because I feel like what we also do is we jump too quickly. Instead of you to wait, collect the data, collect it. Just strategy. Wait. Yeah. Exactly, because sometimes you just jump and you can like jump to the wrong conclusion. I get it, but sometimes I feel like we use tunnel vision, like we're in something and we believe that this person might be perfect or they won't do us wrong. At the end of the day, everyone is human, so
I've never been wrong actually.
But I feel like as long as if you always just keep those notes to yourself,
I think in the moment I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong, but my instinct has obviously told me like keep asking questions, keep probing, but it's either that they respond in a way that backs up my initial thoughts, or something comes out months or even a year or so later which justifies it. So I'm not gonna lie, there is always the thing about like acting on your intuition or even the self-sabotage. There's always that element of self-doubt, because you're just not sure whether you're doing the right thing or you're saying the right thing. But then when it gets proven that actually you were right in the first place, such a great feeling.
That's another thing as well. A lot of people don't know how to ask the right questions as well.
But then you see, like with intuition and just like self-sabotage, I guess it's like the more we know ourselves and the more we trust ourselves, the better we'll be at being able to discern between the two. So have you ladies got any like practical advice? Because I know everyone's always like self-love, self-awareness, but it's just like, how do you, what do you do to start trusting yourself more? Like, what are those practical steps that you can do to be able to be better at discerning between erratic emotions or like genuine, you know, thoughts of just, I don't know, fight or flight? Like, how do you know?
For me, one thing that has helped me in relationships is, and I think particularly like, if you're someone who dates people who are either semi or kind of in the public eye or semi in the public eye or very successful or people that a lot of people like I've been there. And I think one thing that has helped me is just going by facts. And I'm a very naturally emotional person. And I had to learn for my own sense of well-being and for my own best interest to go by what is in front of me. How does the person treat me? What can I see? What can I evidence? If I do not have hard facts or hard feelings, then I've learned to stop questioning things, because I think it's very easy when you are an overthinker or you are an emotional person to make mountains out of molehills, for example. Or if you're with someone who is in the public eye, or you've been with someone who's semi in the public eye, you've learned that people will always have something to say about your relationship, and it's very easy to allow those opinions to infiltrate your relationships. So I think sometimes it's as simple as what is in front of you, what is clear as day. How does the person make you feel? How do they treat you? What can you see and what can you evidence? And if you can't see it, if you can't feel it, if you can't evidence it, then don't dwell on it. And even if you do feel something, you have to learn to be self-reflective and ask yourself, what is the foundation of my feeling? Am I feeling this feeling because so-and-so's friend so-and-so said this about this? Or am I feeling this feeling because this person is making me feel that way? So I think that's also really important. Like asking you, what's the foundation of it? Is it because of how they're treating me, or is it because of outside white noise?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, you know, just like, where is the foundation of it? Like, where has it stemmed from? Because I feel like once you answer those questions, then you can know whether it's something you're making up in your head or it's actually, like, the evidence is there, like the red flags are actually there. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I would say the same thing, like, just... And also, like, I feel like experience is such a beautiful thing in hindsight because, again, it's the evidence again. So it's almost like, if you felt this before and this is what it meant when you felt it that time, then that's a way you're learning to actually trust your gut feeling. And it just spreads in different areas of your life, doesn't it? Like, not just relationships, like jobs and friendships and all sorts, because you just trust, okay, something doesn't sit right. This girl is smiling in my face, we're laughing, but for some reason there's some knot in my, do you know what I mean? So maybe this girl isn't really your friend. Do you know what I mean? So
the only thing I have about obviously, you know, just leading with facts is that, you know, a lot of people, okay, not a lot, but people can sometimes be such masterminds when it comes to putting up pretenses. So and you know, like reenacting personas, and there's like those personas could last for a week, 2 months, 4 years, 10 years. Do you know what? So that's why it's like, it's so important, I guess, to be able to just really listen to those subconscious or feel those subconscious changes where you're thinking, actually, something's not right. Because my fear is that we will never know if somebody is performing for us until the day that, you know, the curtain goes down and they can't keep it up anymore. But we have no control over that, do we? So it's just like, you know, before we get burnt, how do we kind of, you know, protect ourselves before it gets to that stage where it's just like, this is what was happening all along. But I would say, though, that something that, I don't know if it's a practical advice, but if you are in a situation, a relationship or friendship or whatever, if that other person just by being themselves is drawing you a little bit more out of character or drawing you away from who your actual core is, then then I would say it's important to step back and analyze, hold on, if somebody is pulling me so far away from my core, is this actually, is that person actually for me? And then you can decide as well from there.
That's good.
I would say if someone always, it's similar to yours, Mercedes, if someone always has you second guessing yourself or the relationship, whether it be, you know, something that is platonic or something that is actually romantic, then I feel like that is enough for you to be like, okay, I might need to distance myself from this for a reason, because why does this keep happening? Why is this pattern here? And and I don't know, communicate, I guess. And like, you know, we've already been discussing today, find the right time to communicate and find the best way to communicate, especially for that person. Yes. Some people don't mind being on the phone, you know, some people prefer text messages.
Text messages, no, we need to stop that. We are over the ages. I don't think text
messages are bad, you know. I don't think they're bad. Sometimes guys actually can't speak on the phone. It's mad. And some women can't as well. Some women can't. Because no, meet up, that is not bad as well. But you know, not everyone has that time to like meet up. What if it's something that you need to discuss? But that's
text messages don't pop out.
No, I feel like fundamentally it's about understanding your partner's communication style.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
I don't think so. For example, you could have two people that love text. It's not a cop out if they're texting each other or communicating on WhatsApp, because they both like to communicate in that way. Now, if you have one that likes text and you have one that doesn't, it's about meeting in the middle. It's a cop out if you've never discussed your communication style and you're making assumptions, or because you don't like confrontation, you're texting them. But if you are in agreement that when it comes to, you know what, when it comes to highly emotional situations, when I speak to you on the phone, I shout. I find it very hard to control my voice. I would rather text you when it's highly emotional, and then you can sit on it, I can sit on it, then we can discuss it. It's about communicating about how you communicate.
The healthier way. What is the healthier way that's best for you?
I either need to see your eyes, I need to see you. Like,
and do you know what it is as well? I feel like let me tell you something. No, let me tell you something I learned from my last. Let me tell you something I learned from my last relationship as well. Texting is evidence. Because people lie. No one can really. I'm telling you, because there's been times. I'm telling you, because there's been times. I remember I was in a relationship and I told my ex, you said this, you said this, you said this. He told me that it didn't happen. And I don't think he was gaslighting me. I think he genuinely believed that he never said it. Thank fuck it was there by text, because I went
it's true,
I told you. But you know, it wasn't like that person was trying to gaslight me. I think they genuinely believed they hadn't said what they said. But one thing I did learn from that is text messages are good for evidence, because nobody can lie. You can't deny that you never said what you said, because it's here, unless, you know, iMessage is texting for you. So,
but in Mercedes' defense, text messages also make it slightly easier to lie, I think, because when you catch someone on the spot. When you catch someone on the spot, they can't hide it.
There's pros and cons to both. There's pros and cons. You can even treat it like an email. So just to go back off what you said when we had a phone call.
Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and join in the conversation by using the hashtag HeelsOffUK.